So we're going to talk about Nebraska Cornhuskers football, right?
Yeah. Go over kind of my history and how I started this account, and then state of Nebraska football, which is a little bit of a better spot than it's been the last few years.
Yeah, 7 years in a row, no playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, no bowl game. I'm sorry. Now it's the playoff.
For Nebraska, but it's for the first time kind of really looking up. Scott Frost was supposed to be the savior after coming off the 13-0 season at UCF, and that was a little disappointing. But now I like the direction the program's heading with Matt Rule now.
And you have the number one recruit coming in. What's his name again?
Dylan Raiola.
Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, I know you've talked about him before on the show. He is the son of the former center for Nebraska from the late 90s, longtime Detroit Lions center, Dominic Raiola. His uncle is the offensive line coach for Nebraska at the moment. So, it was kind of a long journey to get him here. It was someone that Scott Frost was looking at for a while. He ended up committing to Ohio State. We thought we lost him. Well, he decided to decommit from Ohio State. Got the excitement that, all right, maybe Nebraska is going to have a shot at him this time. Unfortunately, he decided to, at that point, select Georgia, which, who could blame him, coming off of back-to-back national titles. But this offseason, early December, got some buzz that he was thinking about decommitting from Georgia, and Nebraska was going to be the choice. And, Matt Rule was able to pull that off. So it's really exciting to be bringing him into the program. His uncle is the offensive line coach, struggled his first year here in 2022 under Scott Frost. But in 2023, the offensive line really took some big stride. Some players that, struggled in 2022 really took some steps forward and are coming back. So the offensive line's becoming kind of a strong point, I think, of the team, which is really going to help Raiola out this next year, as he's presumably going to be the starter. Almost guaranteed at this point.
Now, what? And he's an early enrollee, right? He's coming in early. He's.
So yeah, he should be starting school. I don't know when the spring semester starts, next week or the week after, but he's already been on campus a lot. He was at the basketball game on Wednesday night against Indiana. He was sitting courtside with Trev Alberts, the athletic director. He was signing autographs, taking pictures with kids. Every time there was a timeout, kids were coming down, getting pictures with him during the game. The cameras in the arena went to him, and he stood up, pumped up the crowd. So he's already become a big star. He's helping recruit guys on campus right now. Nebraska just last night got a commitment from a wide receiver transfer. I think his name's Isaiah Naylor out of Texas. So he's on campus helping to recruit already, even though he hasn't enrolled yet, technically. So, yeah, getting him on campus has been, huge for the program. Best recruit Nebraska's ever signed. Beat out Marlon Lucky, who was a really good running back out of California that Bill Callahan brought to Nebraska. But, beat out top quarterback in the class.
So when did you start because it really is Arbitrary Analytics on Twitter. That's really your company. When did you start doing this?
So I started this in 2018. I always wanted to work in sports, but never really knew how. It was in 2016, Nebraska started the first athletic department-wide sports analytics department. So they would work with all sports, and even the business operations side of the athletic department. So ticketing, those types of things. They would do research on, how can we increase season ticket renewals and those types of things. So when that department started, I decided, this is how I want to get into sports. I ended up going to grad school at the University of Nebraska in 2017. I was able to work with this sports analytics department throughout my second year of grad school in 2018. I was going to work on some fun projects for the football team, volleyball team, baseball team. It was during this time that I decided, okay, I need to build up a portfolio of, my own projects I'm doing for fun. So I launched Arbitrary Analytics in 2018. It was really kind of a random thing. One of my friends sent a text saying, arbitrary stat of the day, Adrian Martinez is, the only player in the country with 1,800 passing yards and 400 rushing yards. I'm like, oh, that's really cool information. So I wanted to start an account to just kind of, share stats like that. It's something I always drew on when I watched SportsCenter. They would talk about stats like that a lot. So I really wanted to start sharing those. It took a while following. I remember, I have a few dozen followers, one person consistently liking my tweets, but no one else. But I really got involved with the broader college football analytics community at that point. I helped develop some of the R packages that are used for a lot of the analytics now.
What package? What packages?
Really grown. There's a really big community.
Well, you just said
analytics on Twitter for college football.
But I have a question for you.
I'm really excited to watch this grow, and
Did you?
grown a
But let me.
pretty moderate sized following for Nebraska sports, so it's been fun to be able to talk about it, get to talk to you, and
But
just share my ideas about Nebraska sports with a broader audience.
so the question I guess I had you before I was trying to ask. You said R packages. What packages did you say? No, what you?
So R is the programming language I use for all of my data analysis.
Okay.
So I helped create some of the ones that other people use to do their own analysis. To gather all this college football data into a single spot. So it makes it easy for a lot of the stuff I do and for beginners to get involved in this. So.
Wow. Okay. Listen, I have you on today, and you said, "Is it going to be casual?" I said, "Oh no, it's not casual." So I just wanted all what you wanted to talk about today. Let it roll.
So yeah, I was just going to kind of go over some of the projects I've done that have kind of cool, and then kind of talk about what I think state of Nebraska football is. Like I said, we're pretty optimistic in Lincoln right now. That's how December usually goes. We claim a lot of off-season championships, but that hasn't really meant a lot when it comes to the actual season. So yeah, just kind of a history of some of my projects and how I got to where I was at. First big one I did was in 2020 during the COVID season. Nebraska had gone the first 5 games without drawing any holding penalties, which was kind of unusual. You generally see more holding calls on both sides. I wrote an article saying we were the only team in the Big Ten that hasn't been called, or that our opponents haven't been called for offensive holding. A lawyer out of New York, Dan Lust, really saw this. He became kind of an honorary Nebraska fan during the Nebraska's players' lawsuit against the Big Ten in 2020. Saw my article and thought, "Oh, this is really weird." Is the Big Ten trying to punish Nebraska by changing the reffing? I don't know if I'd go that far, but it was definitely unusual not to see any holding calls. The week after I published that article, though, Nebraska ended up, I think Purdue was the opponent. They got called for 3 offensive holdings in the first half. So it's definitely a big change the week after I published that before and after. 2021, I did an article looking at Nebraska coaching resumes. So I basically looked at it from, the NCAA has the quadrant system for ranking and evaluating NCAA basketball tournament resumes. I basically took that, used Bill Keneally's SP Plus ratings and said, all right, if it's a top 10 win, that's tier 1, top 25 is tier 2, to compare coaches. My theory here was going to be the modern Big Ten was a lot tougher than the Big 8, Big 12 days. So maybe Scott Frost is a better coach than we think. Turned out that was pretty much the exact opposite. The Big 8 was really good back in the 80s and the 90s. I was too young to remember those games, but there were some really tough opponents there. And Osborne did really well in the 80s and 90s, even against that tough competition. When it came to the lowest tier of opponents, so these were the teams that finished outside the top 75 of the season at SP+. Devaney, Osborne, Solich, even Callahan and Pelini were undefeated against these teams. So these are the teams, you could be beating. Scott Frost lost 3 games in his first 3 seasons to, kind of the bottom tiers of college football.
Right.
So probably by 2021, I was a believer in Scott Frost a lot longer than probably a lot of people were. This was definitely a sign that, he wasn't beating the teams he shouldn't, but it was also losing to a lot of the teams that he should or shouldn't be losing to.